Welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We are going to be talking about the Sega Genesis Mini 1 and the Mini 2. Now what we're going to be talking about here are maybe some of the things you didn't know about it. I'm not doing an unboxing, not doing a technical review or anything like that, even though I will put my opinion in on them. But we're going to talk about the differences between them a little bit. You know, controllers that came with them, stuff like that, sound stuff, you know, and maybe a few things that either you didn't realize you could do with them, or maybe you just forgot you could do this. But without any further ado, my name is Matt, and this is the Gaming Corner. Alright, so starting off, let's start off with just talking about the Genesis Mini 1, which is based off of the Model 1 version of the Sega Genesis. As most of you know, it is powered by a micro USB and has HDMI out, so it does work on modern TVs. This one has about 42 games in it. And then you got the Model 2. This one just got released. It's got 60 games in it. It also supports Sega CD games this time if you leave them without being modded. But difference, as you can see, this was based off the Model 1 Genesis. This is based off the Model 2. Now, part of what I want to talk about, what most of you might know is, or if you don't know, a lot of people claim that the original Model 1 Genesis has the better sound chip than the Model 2 did. So we're going to show that just a little bit in just a few minutes here. But these are both units. As you can see, the size of the Model 2 is definitely smaller, which it is in real life too. It's a smaller unit, more compact. But physically wise, both of these are great. There are no duplicate games on either of these two. So if you get both of these, you have 102 Sega games with no repeats. This one is out of print along with this one right now, so you will be paying more to get your hands on them. Are they worth it? That's a question you have to ask yourself. All the games that are on these, you can get through emulators and stuff like that. So, is it worth it to own them? So this is where I said my opinion will come in. I'm not even going to really talk about much about the games or anything, but is it worth it to own it? I say yes. These are made by Sega. Sega made these. To me alone, that is worth it. If Sega brings out another version of the Genesis Mini, but they include the 32X this time, I will buy that too. If they do a Dreamcast, if they do a Saturn, do a Master System, I will buy it as long as Sega is making it. I don't want a third party doing it. I want Sega to do it. But now let's talk about a couple of the other things that were different. The Model 1. When this was released, Sega only had a 3-button controller. And when you bought the Model 1 version, you did get, as you see, I've never actually used this one on my Model 1. I have 2 Model 1s, by the way. But you got what was the official 3-button controller Sega released. It is USB, because it doesn't run off the original controller, so it is USB. You can actually plug this into your computer and use it on your computer too. But it's USB, it's 3-button, it's really big. If you have carpal tunnel like I do, this controller hurts to run with, but I still use it every now and then. It sucks for fighting games. On this Model 1, there are 2 fighting games that I can remember right now. You got Eternal Champions, and you got Street Fighter 2. Championship Edition are on this one. And truthfully, you don't want to use this for that. You want a 6-button controller. Now, the Model 2, when this came out, Sega did have a 6-button controller finally. I never bought a Model 2 new in box because I always had my Model 1 Genesis. But it did come with, and you see I've been using this one, an official 6-button Sega controller. This was the exact design that they used. It even has the mode button up on top, which I don't know how well you can see it, but there is a mode button right here. That is actually on their official controllers. This mode button, when you would hold it in before turning on your system, would change this into just the 3 buttons. And you had to do that for about 6 Genesis games if you owned the original Genesis. You had to switch it over to a 3-button. But one of the biggest concerns I had with this one doesn't feel like it. This one feels more natural. Even though it's not cheap plastic or anything, I mean, it is good plastic on here. I don't know, maybe I just have to work it in because it feels really smooth. And the D-pad also feels really smooth and everything. I mean, all the buttons are really good. I mean, you got nice clicks to them. D-pad, this part of the D-pad right in here where the little cross is very smooth feeling. And I don't remember my controllers feeling like that. I do have original 6-button controllers still here from when I first had my Genesis, and I bought it. I gave one to my other son because he needed a 6-button one because I had 2. And since I bought other controllers, you know, that's just the way it went. Now, speaking of other controllers, Retrobit makes official licensed Sega controllers. My cat just knocked down one of my shirts. Thank you, Mittens. I love you too. Let's pick that up in a minute. But Retrobit makes official 6-button controllers, and I have bought a few of them. I have a 6-button one that I use on the Genesis Mini 1. But then I also, when I was looking at Retrobit stuff, I found out they had a Street Fighter one. I love this one. This one is nice. And it does work on either my actual Genesis or I can use it on the Mini. So this is a very nice controller. Works great. I've had some issues with Retrobit controllers actually failing after a while. One of the other 6-button ones I bought that looks just like this one failed, stopped working. No clue why. My other one I have, and she just knocked down another shirt. The cat just knocked down 2 of my shirts that are drying. So I bought the Retrobit ones. I don't know, do I have one close by? I thought I pulled one out, but I guess I didn't. That's alright, whatever. But I've had the Retrobit, one of my Sega Genesis 6-button ones, fail. All of a sudden just stopped working. No matter what I plugged it into, computer, the Genesis Minis, didn't matter. One of their Saturn ones, which was designed for my Sega Saturn, which is sitting back here, that Megatron's standing on, also failed. This one by Retrobit still works like a charm. And this is wireless. I also have wireless Retrobit controllers too that I use, and those work great. But alright, let's get on, since I babbled long enough, let's get on to a little bit of the differences between the two. I'm going to start actually with the Model 1 to show you what's on there, show you what the sound sounds like, and then we'll switch over to the Model 2. I'll scroll through the games kind of quickly, just to show that there are no duplicate games. I'm not going to go through and play any really or anything like that. At least I don't think I will. But I do want to show you difference. One other thing that I can bring up right away. I did say I own 2 of these ones, and there was a reason for that. The other one I have, which sits on my main TV, I did mod. There is a mod for this one. You have to look it up yourself. I'm not going to show you where you can actually add more games to it. And there's actually a game on here that Sega did not release that when you put the mod in, shows up. Mortal Kombat 2 was supposed to be on here, and it was not. But the files are inside of here. So when you put the mod in, you can just tell it to load up Mortal Kombat 2, and you'll have it. So Mortal Kombat 2 technically is on here, but Sega did not release it for some reason. Didn't set it up to be shown to be played. Maybe there's a secret code you got to put in and it'll pop up. Who knows? I don't think anybody's found that out. They just found out if you go to mod it, you can throw Mortal Kombat 2 on there because it is physically on this unit. It is physically on here. Like I said, you can mod this one. This one just came out. I'm sure that the modding community will figure it out if they haven't already. I haven't even looked myself. I'm not planning on modding this one. I'm going to keep it original, just like how I have this one still original. And the main reason why I do that is in case I brick this unit, since you can't buy it anymore and you got to pay a lot more to get hold of it now from this, I guess, scalpers you can call them. It costs a lot more to get hold of one of these. So I did not want to mod this one if it does come up, Even if there's games hidden on here, like the Lunar games that I really wanted, I'm not going to mod it just to get those. I'm actually getting that by buying a Japanese version, which I did buy too. Just waiting for that one to come in. All right, now let's go to some differences. All right, so as you can see right now, I am on the Genesis Model 1. And a couple things I wanted to check out was, show you some of the differences in the game. Now, I am using the Genesis Mini's Model 2 6-button pad on here, and it works fine. So that's fine. But as you can see, the 42 games on here, I'm not going to go over. I'll just kind of scroll through the list here a little bit. This has some really, really good games on here. Some really fun ones. Streets of Rage 2, Road Rash 2, Echo the Dolphin. So I might have to correct something here. They had Echo the Dolphin 1 on here, the Genesis version. On the Model 2, they have the CD version. So they did actually double one game. Shining Force 1, which they also have Shining Force CD on there, which has better sound. So that's technically 2 games in it. They kind of doubled, I guess. But that's probably about it. I didn't realize that they doubled 2 games. You got some games that weren't released in the US on the Model 1, like Mega Man and the Willy Wars. I think, I cannot pronounce it, I think it's Darius and Tetris were not released in the US. But as you see, these are the games. Now, I do have this set up right now in the settings in English. Now, this is one of the things that if you don't remember you can do. If you go to languages and you switch to Japanese, is now the Mega Drive version of it, and all of your games are a Japanese version of the games. So if you did not know you could do that, well, that's something you can do. And just to show that they are Japanese, I'll select Shining Force here. This will not be in English. I believe I have this one set up to run in full screen mode. There you go. That's not English if you ask me, people. I mean, I don't really think I need to leave it go any longer. I mean, I can't read that. Maybe some of you viewers who are from overseas can read this, or if you know other languages. But there you go. You get the Japanese version of this game. And which one was quit? That one? I hope so. Woohoo! Alright, so I'm going to go back to the settings real quick. Language, English. No, I cannot read that. I just know where it is. You also get screen settings, which I'll switch it back over to that one. You can put different wallpapers on, but you only get 3 on this one. And Sonic, nope, Sonic does not show up down in the corner. It just shows you up there. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to the settings real quick. Now I'm back on the Genesis version. And yes, if you change this to the European language, you'll get the European versions of the Mega Drive games. But now let's go back to this one. Not set up the same way as the other one. Where did it go? Or is it? Where did my Shining Force game go? There it is. Now if I click on Shining Force, you'll see that now it's back to the English version of the game. So I could play this. There you go. Back to English. So that is one little thing that, if you don't remember, if you change the language into settings, you can actually go to the Japanese version of the games, which I think is pretty darn cool. We're going to check out one other setting here, because I don't think there was anything in this part. And then we'll go over to the Mini 2. Alright, as you can see, that is it. Screen setting, languages, wallpaper, nothing else. Alright, and like I said, these are the games that are on here. Really great games. Really fun games to play. But let's switch over to the Mini 2, and I can show you some differences between those two. Alright, now we are on the Genesis Mini 2. They redesigned the UI a little bit. Different music in here, in the intro screen. One of the other things I like about the Mini 2, which I don't know if it does in the Mini 1, which I should have left it run more, You let this run, it'll start playing different games, giving you demos of games. But as you can see now, we got, let me go into, whoop, not that, back for a minute. Let me go by order. Okay. So now we're in the order of the games, and as you can see, this one has a lot more games here, and some really, really great ones. They said Echo the Dolphin was copied, but this is the CD version, so it does have better music. You also get Earthworm Jim. You get other games that were never released in the US, like I believe that one right there, Deviant and Pi, or whatever the name is. That was never released in the US. You get Echo the Tide of Time, which was the second Echo the Dolphin game. That one was not on there. Fantasy Zone was a brand new game, if I remember correctly. That was never released. That was made for the Genesis Mini 2. You get Final Fight CD. That game right there, just like Final Fight 1, if you want them complete, they are expensive. This is one reason why sometimes this is a better idea. But you get some great games in here too. Go Next 2, Gang Ground, Thunder Force 4 basically is what that one is. The US called it Lightning Force. Other Sega CD games. You get Night Trap, which was a very controversial game when it was first released. I had the original, never really cared for it too much. But yeah, you get a lot more games in here. Now, one thing I'm going to mention too, it might not look the greatest on here right now. There's something wrong with the HDMI switch that I use. The colors aren't coming out right. I actually had to remove one of my units from here. So I am looking at a different HDMI switch for recording purposes because there is something wrong with the one I'm using. But Outrunners. If anybody knows the issue with these two games is Sega used a Ferrari in it. And they no longer have the license to Ferrari. So if you play these two, you won't see the Ferrari symbol on the back of the car. You actually see like what looks like a bird. I will actually run that game to show. But other games that are in here that are well worth the price. Robostellar. I think I said that right. Robostelli. This makes this worth the price no matter what. That game is way, way expensive. And it kicks butt on here. Then you got Shining in the Darkness, which is another sequel to Shining Force. Like I said, Shining Force CD was also repeated. Music in that is a lot better in this version. You get the other two Shinobi games, Revenge of Shinobi and Shadow Dancer are in here. Sylphied, which is a blast. Splatterhouse 2, another very expensive game. Splatter was a game that was never released in the US. Space Harrier 2. Sega actually went and remade that one in here too to do better sprite scrolling off of this Genesis Mini 2. So I haven't tried it yet. Sonic CD. This one's an interesting one, which I'll go over in just a minute. Streets of Rage 3, Star Mobile, just Super Street Fighter 2, another game that was never released anywhere, Super Locomotive, I've never heard of that one. This game, which Truxton, I have no clue how you pronounce it, is another very expensive Genesis game. A lot cheaper going this way to get hold of it. Unless you decide to just emulate it anyways. There's the other Shinobi game. The Ooze, which I don't think I've ever played the Ooze. Ninja Warriors, which does have the Mega Drive logo on it. That's an arcade style game. Viewpoint, I haven't tried that one yet, but this one right here is the one that really caught my attention. Virtual Racing. As far as I know, there is still no physical emulator out there that can play this game. Sega got it to work. Alright, so that's all the games in here. So you kind of got a view of it. You kind of got some of the stuff I say is definitely worth the money of buying. I wish they could have did version 1 of the Revenge of Shinobi that has Spider-Man and Batman in it. It is not version 1. You know, copyright issues. But let me show you something here first. Which one did I talk about first? Okay, first let's go jump into Outrun. Like I said, they made this with the Ferrari car. If you own any of the Yakuza series games where they have Outrun in it, you already know what's going on here. But I don't even have to really get into the game. There you go. That little symbol on the back of the Ferrari, that's not a Ferrari symbol. And I gotta admit, the sprite scrolling in this thing is pretty awesome. One thing that you can do in here, the mode button, since it's not really used for anything, if you hit the mode button, it brings you back up to the menu, so you can save your game, load your game, return the menu. It does the same thing on the Genesis Mini 1 if you hit the mode button, which is really cool. But alright, so as you can see, the Ferrari symbol has been removed. I wonder why. Oh, because Sega doesn't have the licensing right. We're going to jump on the Sonic CD now to show you a couple things here. Okay? When you go to Sonic CD and you hit start, there's two different versions. There's the US and the European version. I was only aware of maybe a couple small differences, and that's music-wise. So I'm going to jump into the US version for a minute. Hopefully I don't get hit with a copyright strike on this one. But we are going to jump into the US version, and I'm going to let the intro song play for a few minutes. The Sonic Boom soundtrack. This actually plays in the intro cartoon, which should be starting up right now. Alright, so here is difference 1. So this is the first difference here, the theme song. Alright, I think that's more than enough there, so let me head back out. Alright, so that was the US version intro song for Sonic CD. I am a fan of that song. I really love the way that one sounds. It seems to fit nicely. From what I remember, the US Sonic team that was making that game didn't care for the way the Japanese one sounded, and I didn't hear anything about the European version. But they came up with their own song, and I actually liked that one. But now we're going to jump back into here, and we're going to go to the UE version. Let's go to the European version of the game to show you one of the differences real quick. Alright, here we go. Here comes the intro from the European one. Alright, I think that's enough right there. So I think if I keep it short, I don't get hit with the copyright if these songs are still under copyright. But, okay, so there were two different versions of Sonic CD. I don't know what else is really different in there. Everything should be about the same. Some music choices would be different. I truthfully, for the intro song, I love the American version. I think it fit the game a lot better. But now, let's go show you what else happens. Remember before when I went into the settings and you could change the language and get the Japanese games? You can still do that. Boom. Now I'm in a Japanese version of the games. And, once again, all the game boxes changed. Let's go to, where did it go? Where'd my Final Fight CD go? That is a game that I do know what the real difference was between the two, if I can find it. There it is. So now this game, I know one of the differences along with this game. So Bare Knuckles 3, I know what the difference is, and I know the difference in Final Fight. Final Fight I will have to play a little bit out to show you what the difference is. Unless it shows up in the intro screen, I'm not sure. But let's go jump into this one. So for some of us who have heard about the difference between the US version being censored and the Japanese one, playing this version of Final Fight on here will give you the Japanese version of it. I don't know if they have it in the intro, so I'll fast forward through the intro a little bit and then we'll see if it's in here. If I'm right, it's going to be on the scene where he sees his daughter on the TV. Is different in this version than the US one, but we'll find out that way first. Yep, definitely different. In the US version, Jessica, his daughter, is actually dressed. In the Japanese version, she's in her bra. You get to see top booby. All right, and that's also one of the differences when you're in the game, which let me get up to the spot where the girls come out, is that the girls in the Japanese version show underboob, and in the US version, their boobies do not show. So if you like boobies, cartoon boobies, this is the one to play. Because cartoon boobies are awesome! Hey, look, Jessica's got her dress on now. What the hell? Come here, chickie. There you go. Pause it there. So as you can see, you get underboob when you smack the girls in the face. That's what the censorship was. The fact that Jessica was in her bra, and the fact that you get underbooby from the girls when you hit them. And that the American side said, oh no, you can't show underbooby in a video game. But we can show underboob and side boob on every TV program in the world. Because we're like that. But alright, let me back out of here once and show you one last change. Let's go up to here. I'm going to get the language set back up first so I can see what I'm looking at. Alright, now I'm back in the English version of the game system. Back to settings. Alright, so here is one other change they made in here. Well, a couple other changes. One, wallpaper settings. You get more now. You get more choices. I like this one. I like the way that looks. Sonic one looks cool. You get the original one from the first one. You get a diagrams type setup. I like the Sega world, so I keep it at that. Next one, sound settings. Remember when I said everybody says that the Genesis Model 1 has better sound? Well, listen to this for a few seconds. Alright, now here comes a sound from the type from the Genesis Model 1. Okay, and one last time, back to the compact one. Alright, so there you go. That is the sound difference between the two. Now, I'm going to be leaving mine on the newer design for now. I do like the sound myself better from the Model 1, definitely, but I'm going to leave it where it's at. So that is one of the other differences, is that you can select what sound you want from the Genesis Mini 2. And I really like that. Alright, so there you go. The Genesis Model 1 Mini versus the Model 2 Mini. I personally have to say, I love both of them. I love the fact that they got games in here that I don't physically own. You can kind of see a bit of my game collection directly behind me here. I do own a lot of the games that are on those units. Not all of them. I am working on getting more and more. But I do love the fact that they have games on here that I don't physically have. Love that. Which one do I like better in reality? I kind of like the Mini 2 a lot better. I love the inclusion of the Sega CD games. More games to begin with. But truthfully, in my opinion, if you can get hold of both of them, do it. Because truthfully, besides for Shining Force CD and Echo CD, there are no repeated games. And like I said, the CD version of those two games have way better sound and music. So that makes them two actually worth getting that way wise. And Shining Force 1, if you try to buy it on a Sega CD, is expensive. So that's another good reason. Plus the other game on that, Robo Stellar or whatever it's called for the Sega CD, very expensive. Have fun getting the Thunder Force games. Thunder, I think I said that wrong. But the other shooter games, any of the shooter type games, or the shumps as they're called or whatever, are very expensive to get your hands on. So when they show up on the minis, it makes it better because You know, it might cost you over $100, but trying to get hold of those CD games and all that could cost you well over $1,000. So you got to do the math there, which one's better. Now, for one of the things that I despise about Sega with the way they handled the Mini 2 here in the US, they omitted 3 games that I really wanted. They have, on the Japanese model, they have the Sega CD version of Lunar, the Silver Star 1, Lunar Eternal Blue, which was number 2, and Popful Mail. I originally had those plus buy all in my collection behind me. I sold those off at the right time. Each one of those games were going for about $1,000 a pop when I sold them. I ended up walking away with the offers I was made on the games with about just a little under $3,000, which is how I bought and built my computer. So I didn't mind parting with those games. And now that the Mini 2 from the Japan market has 3 of the 4 games on there, I really want the Japanese version. So, I think I said in the beginning of this, the Japanese version is on its way. I did buy it. And if everything works the same way as it does on the Mini 2 and the Mini 1, where I switched that language to English, I'll have 3 of those 4 games back in my collection. Even though not a physical copy, I saved a shit ton of money. Crap ton of money. Nah, shit ton of money. That's not that bad of a swear word. But like I said, if you can get hold of these 2, definitely do it. The Mini 1 was released in, what year was that again? 2019. September 19th of 2019. That's right, it was 2 days before my birthday. And that was my birthday gift to me. And the Mini 2 was just released a few days ago. You can only get it through pre-orders at the time. And that was released October 22nd of this year, 2022. I pre-ordered mine back in July. So I knew I had mine coming. But I was having problems getting the Sega Mini 2 Japanese version because everyone was saying, we'll only ship it to these locations. So I had to go through an eBay seller that's selling it and that from Japan, which I'm fine with. I paid a little bit more for it. Nowhere near what the Lunar games cost. So I'm good buying it that way. And as long as the guy gets it here and it's legit, I'll be happier than hell. Okay, but other than that, that is about where this video will end. I know this was a kind of a longer one because I want to go over a few things. If you have the Mini 2, the Genesis Mini 2, what do you think about it? I actually like it a lot. I like the fact you can change the sound over to the Genesis 1 sound if you really do think that sound was better, and you can definitely hear a difference. You know, Sega made these correct. That's why if Sega brings out any other minis, like a Dreamcast or a Saturn, or even a Master System, as long as Sega's doing it, I will buy it immediately. Because Sega knows what they're doing. But alright, other than that, this video is now done. I'm done blabbing. I do appreciate you guys watching this video. Leave your comments on what you think about both of the minis, or any other mini, even the Nintendo ones, which I don't own. But leave a comment on those. Tell me what you think. So me personally, I think they're well worth it. Especially the Genesis ones. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.